straight weeks with UCF losing all 5 of their games in the Big 12. They lose yesterday, 41-28 to the West Virginia Mountaineers at home. We're going to talk about it, and we're really going to have a come-to-you-know-what moment about this UCF football team. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. Before we get started, as always, a quick word from our sponsors, BetOnline. The last of the major pro sports leagues kicks off this week, and BetOnline is your top spot for all your NBA action this season. With MLB postseason, NFL and college football, and NHL in full swing, BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. Get everything NBA at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access for every sport anytime. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action. Don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Before we get into it, I want to appreciate everybody that stopped by in our pregame live stream. It was really great to see the people that have been watching us for the past year give away a lot of cool stuff. I'm wearing one of the hats that people were really enjoying. We'll hopefully have some more news on that in the coming weeks on chances for you guys to potentially get one of these. So we're really excited about that. And again, we really appreciate anybody that stopped by or tuned in to the live stream. I think me and Nick can both agree, and I think we're going to agree a lot this pod on a lot of different subjects, but me and Nick can both agree that was probably the best part of our day. But as I welcome on Nick Geddes, made the drive to Tampa to do it, to see the game. Obviously, I speak for both of us, but what a great turnout, for the game, and people came to stop by. So, kind of give your take on that first of all, and just that kind of atmosphere that we took in before the game, and then I'll give you the first jab at the game itself. The West Virginia UCF crapshoot.
Yeah, I'll start with the good, and it was everything leading up to the game. I mean, my expectations, y'all blew them out of the water. Night Nation showed up. The Charge On Podcast Nation showed up. I mean, like you said, we've been doing this now for just about a year. And, I'll just be honest, we started this and we didn't know what was going to happen. Like Sean presented the idea to me and I was just like, sure, let's do it. And that was it. And we've, grown a lot as a show, I think. And, that's reflective of the listeners as the views continue to rise. Subscriptions are up, all those things. Business is great. And then to get to see some of our loyal listeners for the first time in person, like that's just like the coolest thing. That really is the coolest thing. So I hope we continue to do more of these in the future because it blew my expectations out of the water. It was great to see so many of you and give away some new merch and some other stuff as well. So that's the good. Now to the game, which we both took in a sea of West Virginia fans who I knew were going to travel. I knew they were going to travel. And they were all cool, by the way. That's not a dig. Man, I feel like you could get so complex with these things, but in this game, you don't need to. You don't need to. And I echo so much of what Gus Malzahn said in his press conference after the game. You're not going to beat anybody in the country when you turn the ball over 4 frickin' times. You're just not. And maybe some great teams out there can do it, but not this UCF team. Not this UCF team. This, Sean, is a bad football team right now. It is legitimately a bad football team. 0-5 in Big 12 play, dropping games that we perceived as wins. I mean, I told you it was dangerous going in. We predicted a UCF victory. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop. All the fans that chimed in, we all were on it. The same kind of score line, just about, somewhere in that 30 to 20 something. And boy, were we so far off. And the frustrating part about this, Sean, and I know you probably feel the same way, is the offense moved the ball at will for majority of the game. They only punted 1 time, but again, 4 turnovers. I keep going back to that. It's that simple. Like that's where the game was won and lost. And I know everybody wants to talk about the defense, and listen, the defense, they are what they are as a unit, okay? They had a nice showing against Oklahoma for 3.5 quarters, and that's great, and I told you what's the follow-up going to be. And the follow-up was letting West Virginia run down your throat for 3 hours inside the bounce house. That was the follow-up. I'm not that surprised by that. I'm just not. We can talk about the keys to the game, and you got to stop the run and all this stuff, but this team's proven they just can't do it. They just can't do it. But I will give them this. In a game where it was clear right away that it was going to be a shootout and it was going to be about which offense can keep up, the UCF defense, and I'm literally picking at straws here to try to find positives, they made 2 stops in a game that looked like it was going to be a shootout. And the UCF offense killed themselves. They absolutely killed themselves today. And that's the disheartening part. And there's got to be a lot of tough conversations to come out of this. Like, my expectations, I've been saying it, we're 6-6. Can you get me just to 6-6 and I'll take it? Well, right now, even that looks generous if they're going to get there. And so I think tough conversations need to come right now. I think as a fan base, we all need a reality check. And I think we're getting it with this first season in the Big 12 for some that had some outwardly expectations of where this team and where this program's at. And yeah, it's just not good right now. And I go back to the full scope of this program. And this goes back to last year, by the way, of the alarming things that we've seen, Sean. And I'll just list them real quick and then I'll let you talk. Going back to last year when they won that game at Tulane. Remember that? That was a great moment last year. Beat Tulane on the road, top 25 team. Things were looking great. Since then, they lost to Navy at home. They hung on to beat USF on the road. They got blown out by Tulane in the rematch in the AAC title game. They got blown out by Duke in the bowl game. They blew a 28-point lead against against Baylor in their first Big 12 game. They lost by 29 at Kansas, who, by the way, beat Oklahoma. Pretty good team. Mm-hmm. And then they just lost by double digits to a West Virginia team that allowed Houston, who got shut out today, to score 41 points on them, and then also let Oklahoma State score 40 plus on them. That right there are your UCF football nights. And that is the harsh reality of where this program sits right now within the past calendar year. And it's not pretty.
Yeah, I think you said it better than anybody, Nick. I mean, listen, it's hard to look at a team and have a come to you-know-what moment. And this was that game for me. I think we've been looking at it the past couple weeks, kind of saying we kind of know what this team is. You get a little bit of confidence against Oklahoma where it kind of resets your brain a little bit to make you believe that something better could be down the pipeline, right? Something better is on the horizon. This team has figured something out. They show out against, at the time, the number 6 team in the country. Not going to be anymore because clearly, Kansas is a really good team. We saw that. I mean, we couldn't do anything against Kansas, and Kansas goes out and gets a win against Oklahoma at home, and really good for them. Great win for their program and Lance Leipold. But then you follow it up in a game that, listen, Nick, and we were talking about it pre-game and during the game, how we said it's not like we were predicting a 14-point UCF win. We weren't saying this is an easy win for UCF, an automatic win. We said the spread's about accurate. I think I had UCF winning by 4. I think you had UCF winning by 3 or something like that. Going into this game, and even after that first drive, right, they go down and put up 7. We both looked at ourselves and said this is going to be a shootout, right? The offense is going to be able to move the ball. Defense ain't going to be able to stop them. So which defense is going to be able to make enough stops to kind of prolong this game, and who's going to have the win by 3 at the end of the game? Because that's how it was kind of looking. We are to the point where I think what's really frustrating me, and I'm sure frustrating you, and frustrating you who's watching us. And I was talking to my girlfriend about it earlier when I got home. I don't think the frustration is the losses. Because ultimately, Nick, if we went into this game and West Virginia was the far superior team and they just blew our doors off, right? You can leave a football game knowing, listen, we're just not the better team. Like, ultimately, the teams that we've played, they're just significantly better than us. It's our first year in the Big 12. We're the small dog. we'll figure it out at some point. Give us a year, it's our first year, right? The frustrating part, the part that gets the frustrations up to the top of your head, you were outgaining them. You were moving the ball better than them. Your defense was making more stops than the opposing defense. And every time your defense made a stop and you got the ball back, you turned the ball over right away. It happened every single time. Defense holds them to a field goal. Okay, cool. Go down, turnover. Dang. Like, if you just go back and look at the turnovers, I get it. And Gus is 100% right. 4 turnovers, you won't win a football game. Hell, 2 turnovers, you usually don't win a football game. But if you go down and look at every single turnover in this football game, every single time, it was usually UCF down by 3 points. They were driving down the field. They had a chance to take the lead or tie it, and something crazy happens. The Javon kicked the ball up, turnover. It's happened like 3 times with Javon this year. Guess who was up by 3? West Virginia. John Rice throws the ball up high in the sky, basically trying to hit the damn NASA space shuttle that launches.
And that came after UCF forced a turnover. Right after.
UCF, exactly. Defense makes a stop. You get the ball back to go take the lead. What do you do with it? Absolutely nothing. Right? John Rice throws the interception. I think, again, I might be wrong on this, but again, the game felt like UCF was 3 points away the entire game. They'd go down by 10, right? UCF would go about it was 17-14, right? We give up a turnover, they go up and put a touchdown, 24-14. UCF answers. UCF answers with a score, 21-24. Defense gets a stop. Offense gets the ball back. 2 plays, John Rice throws the high interception, gets picked off. So, and then of course the fumble, which I'm not going to blame on John Rice. Again, blindside block. I put that on the offensive line or running back, whoever had that assignment. In a blindside block, anything can happen. And usually when John Rice is getting blindside blocked, he's fumbling the ball just because of getting ball security. So realistically, 2 of those interceptions are strictly on John Rice. And we could talk about John Rice, but to end my rant, I think most UCF fans are feeling the same way I'm feeling. When you're looking at UCF competing, UCF's just not there. It's absolute BS. At the end of the day, UCF went out and was playing a better overall game. But when you look at the just watch the game, don't look at the stats, and you just watch the football game, UCF the last 5 weeks has beaten themselves. It's not the other team they're playing against. It's not that the other team is just far superior. I was listening to a bunch of broadcasters saying the lines of scrimmage are just, we're just so outnumbered, which I'm not disagreeing with that. But I'm saying at the end of the day, you can blame it on whatever you want. You cannot tell me you watch a UCF football game the last 5 weeks and are saying UCF is just out. The other team is far superior. There was only one time, and that was Kansas. Give me the last 4 weeks of football beside Kansas, and every team we've watched, you're not looking at the game saying UCF should not win this football game. It's the same soliloquy, the same story every single week. UCF beats themselves. They lose in the fourth quarter. They give up their leads. They can't get past the hump. It's the same thing every week. So guess what, Nick? You're right. 6-6. And again, I hate overreactions are real. We overreact about everything every week. That's a sports fan in general. But if you cannot sit here on a Sunday and overreact and understand what this football team is after the last 5 weeks, I don't know what you're doing.
I don't think we're overreacting, Sean. I think if anything, you've given him the benefit of the doubt a lot this season. I've been a little bit more hard on them, I think, from the beginning, just trying to set realistic expectations. But then there's moments where they show you that it's there. But I said this a few weeks back. This team plays their worst football late in the game. And that right there is a sign of a bad, poorly coached team. So there's 2 discussions here that I think we need to have. First, I'll have it about John Rice Plumlee. 4 turnovers today. 2 of them are directly responsible to JRP, obviously.
Yeah.
But if they had better quarterback play, UCF might win that football game. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. You know? And I look at John Rice Plumlee, and here's the thing that bothers me. Timmy McClain makes stupid mistakes. But you know what? And I said this morning when we were doing the live show. He's still a developing quarterback that doesn't have a lot of experience playing at this level. So while I'm not excusing it, I could be a little less harsh. John Rice Plumlee is in his 5th year of playing college football. Yes, I know he hasn't been a quarterback for all those years, but he's played enough to know that you can't turn the football and you've got to make smart decisions when you're standing back there. And John Rice Plumlee, a few moments like the Oklahoma game where he shows us glimpses, he's just not that dude. He's not. And this is where it falls on Gus, because I'm going to say it. We've kind of been alluding to it all year long. We didn't want to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. And I'll just go over Gus Malzahn's history real quick. Gus's last couple years at Auburn, who was the quarterback, Sean?
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix. Bo Nix looked like a middling at best quarterback in the SEC under Gus Malzahn. He goes to Oregon. Anybody see Oregon today? Anybody watch Bo Nix the last 2 years? Anybody paying attention to the mock drafts out there of where Bo Nix is going?
Top 5 pick.
When he got away from Gus Malzahn. Yeah, Riley. He's mad. I understand. Hopefully this stops here real quick. And I can continue my thoughts. All right. That's enough. But anyway. So there's
he didn't believe Bo Nix was a top 5 quarterback.
Apparently. He thought I was speaking out of line. I'm not, though.
Yeah.
And then since he's come to UCF, Dylan Gabriel. He only got 2-3 games out of that partnership, and then Dylan sprinted to Oklahoma. It is what it is. But for what it's worth, couldn't keep Dylan Gabriel on campus. And then he has a trio of quarterbacks at his disposal last year. John Rice Plumlee, Mikey Keene, and Thomas Castellanos. Mikey Keene sprints for the portal, even though last year Mikey Keene looked really good when he got a chance. Okay? And he's far superior talented than John Rice Plumlee. I think we all said that last year. But because John Rice runs the system, which I'm still trying to figure out what the system really is, Mikey Keene transfers to Fresno State, who is 6-1, a fringe top 25 team in the nation. Thomas Castellanos, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, was Gus's big recruit that he got in his first signing class, right? He was going to be your quarterback of the future. Because Thomas Castellanos was told he wasn't going to have a shot to compete, at least that's the way I understand it. Allegedly, right? Let's put that in front. He splits. He goes to Boston College. And after picking up another win today, he's got Boston College at 5-3. And had Florida State, the number 4 team in the nation, on the ropes. And I have to watch John Rice Plumlee continue to make poor decisions and turn the ball over at this stage in his career in his last season. He's making mistakes that I expect a freshman quarterback to make. And that is why he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. And so now this is where the decisions of Gus Malzahn and his coaching staff come under a microscope. Because you got 2 quarterbacks that are balling at 2 other universities that were in your building last year. They were in this building, Sean. And they're gone because we wanted to ride with John Rice Plumlee. If this coaching staff truly believed that John Rice Plumlee gave them the best chance to win over what I've seen over those 2 guys, we're doomed. We are doomed. That's the way I see it. You can call this overreacting all you want, but this is stuff right here that we're going to look at in a few years if this thing doesn't turn around, and we're going to look at points to where things went wrong. Because right now, you don't have a solution, as far as I'm concerned, for the future of this team at the most important position. You're going to be transfer portal diving most likely next year. And that's not a sustainable model. It's just not. So John Rice Plumlee's not good enough to win games. He's proven that. He's just proven that. And Gus is just as much at blame here because he's the one who rode with John Rice Plumlee over those two guys.
So I don't disagree with 90% of what you said. I do think John Rice is good enough to win football games because I have seen it.
How many games did he win this year?
2, technically.
Against who?
2. We know the 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Kent State and Boise State.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Listen, and that it's hard. I think last season, Nick, I think we all on Charge On were very critical of John Rice Plumlee, and rightfully so. I mean, John Rice did not play up to standard last year. He got banged up and didn't play up to the standard that I think you expect out of a UCF quarterback. We were all clamoring for Mikey Keene. Mikey Keene made the most of his opportunities when given the chance. Now, granted, I will say, the Navy game, neither played good. And we kind of both after the Navy game said, okay, maybe we were a little too much on Mikey Keene, but I think we're now seeing what Mikey Keene really is, and we all knew it. When it comes to the Gus Malzahn system, this is where I get a little, it's a double-edged sword here, right? Because we are all watching the games, Nick, and me and you are both saying, we're moving the ball at will. This is not, and listen, I'm getting annoyed. Maybe it's just 5 weeks of straight losing and going on Twitter and seeing the same old jargon rolling through the damn app of the coaches suck and give me a damn break when you're talking about the offense of UCF. Give me a break. UCF has moved the ball on every damn team. At some point, it's not on the coaches. Now, I am not giving the coaches a pass here, right? Defensively, something needs to get looked at. But it's not on the defense today. And if you're going to blame the coaches for the offense, I don't know what football you're watching. Call it like it is, just like Nick said. 2 of them were strictly on John Rice Plumlee. The other 2, wide receiver tip ball up for the defender to just grab it whenever he wanted. The other was a misassignment, which led to a John Rice fumble. You can maybe blame the fumble on coaching because maybe you didn't coach up the player to get the assignment. But you can only blame the coaches so damn much.
Players got to play. Players got
to play. Gus Malzahn ain't going to run the football up the gut for you. The offense has not been the issue. And for anybody continuously saying, Gus this, offense that, Hinshaw this, give me a break. It is not on the coaches at some point. At some point, you got to blame the players. It's 5 straight weeks of losing. At some point, you need to look at players and say, something's up, something's not right. Do you know UCF is still in the top 10 of total offense? Is that the coach's fault? Is it the coach's fault that UCF is top 10 in offense in the country? No. The coaches are the reason that it's that good. Guess what? Just like it is the players.
And they don't score enough. They don't score enough. And because they kill themselves with turnovers and foolish decision-making late in games. That's what
why
they
I'm
do.
Not giving, and I'm not for all the people that'll go down and be like, oh, well, the red zone play calling. You're right. 100%. I think some of the play calls in the red zone and in the red area are absolutely egregious. They're terrible. But at the same time, you cannot have told me you watched this game today and said, Gus and Darren Hinshaw need to be let go. They are awful play callers. They don't know what they're doing.
No, I know you're not taking it this way, but my criticism of Gus doesn't have anything to do with today. Gus Malzahn.
Oh, I'm not saying Gus it's you. I'm saying I know. Me and you are on the same wavelength here.
Because today there's 4 turnovers today. Now one of them, can you tell me? Oh, that was coaching. No, that's just players not executing and making stupid decisions, and that's the game right there. The coach is not throwing interceptions. And by the way, John Rice Plumlee 2 picks that he was responsible for. I saw some bad, especially in the second half of the game. First half of the game, he didn't have a single ball hit the ground. They were either interceptions, they were completions. Second half of the game, I saw he had the 2 picks there in the second half, I believe it was. And I saw a couple other turnover-worthy throws. There was one that went right through West Virginia linebacker's hands. Saw that one.
The second half, he looked a little he looked flustered. I don't know what it was. The first half, He looked a completely different quarterback in the second half.
Right. The second half, it completely changed. And, again, yes, he used his legs a little bit today. That was good to see. It looked like he was okay for the most part, but still not at the level that we expect for John Rice Plumlee. That's the whole thing. Like, if it's going to work with John Rice Plumlee, he's got to be able to use his legs like as effective as he can. And even though he did that a little bit today, it's still not at the level they need for him to overcome his deficiencies as a passer. Like, UCF has a quarterback problem. Let's just call it like it is. Better quarterback in there, and you're probably winning some of these games. I mean, at some point, like you said, you got to look at the players, and who's the guy that controls most of it? It's the quarterback. And the guy that is 5 years into his college career is still making like freshman mistakes. And I got no time for that. Yep. I got no time for that.
You're right. I mean, it's sad. It's upsetting because this team is so much better than the record. And it's like, but at the end of the day, your record is your record.
Yeah, and
your record is what you do.
For the defense, you know what? Because you turned it over so much and you kept giving West Virginia more possessions, eventually your defense, especially this one, is going to wear down. And look at the numbers. West Virginia had the ball for 12 more minutes.
I was going to say that
12 more minutes than you had the ball. I mean, you're asking already an inferior unit to try to make stops in a game like this, and then you continue to give West Virginia extra possessions, good field position. I mean, you're dead in the water. You're just dead in the water at that point.
And that's why I will not, like, I get it. Like,
the defense is what it is. It just is what it is. It's not going to get any better. Yeah. They are what they are. The offense has to win games. And the offense continues to shoot themselves in the foot at the most opportune times because of poor quarterback play and bad decision making.
And I give credit to the defense. I mean, I think we could both agree on that. I mean, we know what the defense is at this point. Clearly, there needs to be some soul searching in the offseason of how do we get this
Addison
defense
Williams,
to be
there's
better.
Just no way. He will not be here if he is, we're an unserious program.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because you can look at the defense and the defense, didn't play great today. But at the end of the day, they got stops in crucial positions that if we're looking at the game, if UCF's offense takes advantage of those stops, we're having a different conversation. Now, granted, again, football is a bunch of what ifs. Everything is what ifs. What if this? What if that? It turned out the way it turned out.
There's 3 to 4 plays, Sean, that decide every game who wins and
exactly.
loses. And
UCF guess what?
Had 4 turnovers.
That was the 4 plays.
That's it. That's what I said. You can get as complex as you want breaking down this game, but that's I'll die on that hill. That is it.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not looking at no stats. I'm not we're not talking about players.
No, I don't need to talk about anything else.
No, we're talking what it is. Like, this is what it is. It's tough to hear. It's tough to talk about. I put out a tweet after the game. I'm like, the worst part about having a UCF podcast like this right now is that we can't just go home and we have our other stuff that we're doing, right? But we have to sit on here for 30 minutes and talk about it. And it's been 5 straight weeks. This is uncharted territory for UCF, and I get it. Fans have been pampered. We have been pampered with pretty good football for the last 6 years. And I think, and I'm not going to say I didn't, you assume that you're going to go into the Big 12 and you're going to play good football. You're going to not make the same mistakes. You're going to play solid football that you've been playing for however many years. This is the weirdest team in the terms of, I think, talent-wise. I've said it. Talent-wise, I think it's one of the most talented UCF teams I've seen, on a field. The execution is just the poorest I've ever seen. And ultimately, that's your record. That's why you're 3-5. That's why you've only beat Villanova, Kent State, and Boise. That's why you're 0-5 in the Big 12.
They were fortunate to beat Boise.
Yeah, fortunate. Exactly. On a game-winning field goal. You'll be fortunate to win any of the rest of the games. I mean, you're lucky you get Cincinnati, which is kind of on the same level as you in terms of just trying to figure crap out. And if we're being real, Cincinnati, they have had a complete turnover, had a completely new coach, completely new offense. And they're, listen, they're a whole other story. We're going to, I'm not going to talk too much Cincinnati, but they kind of have looked more composed in some games compared to us.
They have one side of the ball figured out.
Yeah, and we got and I, again.
We got 1.5,
But that's where the frustrating thing is, Nick. all you have to do is just play mistake-free football. And UCF looks like we are having a completely different conversation. But unfortunately, and it is unfortunate, because this is the team that we have that makes too many mistakes, and you can keep giving me we're going to really find out what type of team UCF is, or like all the players are saying that the coaches, we're going to really find out what type of team this is. I'm sorry. You're 3-5. You haven't won a damn game in the Big 12. If I'm a football player, what can the coaches tell me to get me juiced up? Hey, we got 4 games left. Yeah, we can really finish the season strong.
And by the way, and go back to what Gus said, was it after the Oklahoma game he said this or before it? I can't remember. About, it's the second half of the season and not too many teams around the country get better in the second half of the season. And we got to be one of them. And you come back from the best you've looked in a long time this season, maybe the best you've looked all season, honestly, in a defeat. That's no doubt about that.
100%.
You come back from that with this performance today, and you just regressed. You regressed back to the mean. And this was, it's just the missed opportunities that are out there. That's the frustrating part. It's like, it's not like West Virginia was far superior than you on that football field today. They didn't make mistakes and you did. And that's hard. That's hard to like cope with. It really, really is.
That's the frustration. That's the frustration of this year.
It is. And at some point, what are we, 8 games in, Sean? We're 8 games in. This is who they are. It's just who they are. And you have to accept it. I'm trying to look at it glass half full from this. I said this was not going to be the best UCF team you see in the first few years of this Big 12. It just won't. And there's going to be growing pains. They call them pains for a reason, John. They call them pains. But it's just the way that it's done. It's like the wins are out there. Outside of the Kansas game, they've been in every other game at various points. And then they've shot their own selves in the foot.
Yep. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. But again, I think, and again, for all the people, saying to start the second and third team guys and start Dylan rest the last 4 games. I get where you're coming from.
I'm going to put this out there, Sean.
Now you might agree with them.
No, I don't mean Dylan Risk. I don't mean him. Maybe, I don't know if you want to go that. I wouldn't go that route. What's the benefit of playing John Rice Plumlee the rest of the season? He's not going to be here next year. What, loyalty to him? Loyalty to him? Because last time I text Sean, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be next year. And I've already said that Timmy, the best thing he needs right now is reps. He needs game reps. He needs to continue to go. He needs to win a game, something like that. If he's going to be a legitimate option next year, and we talked about this earlier today, has he done enough so far to prove that he can be in that mix? I don't know. The jury's still out. But at this point, because I don't think bowl eligibility is on the table, they're not winning 3 of the final 4 games. I just do not see that happening. They're there. The games are there. I'm not going to say they can't win them, but you have that fear in the back of your mind that they're going to do something stupid and ruin it. I just don't think they're going to win 3 of those final 4 games. So at this point, not that I'm trying to punt the season or anything, but
no, but I'm not.
What's so bad about just putting Timmy McClain out there? Let the guy spin it. Let's see what he has. Let's get him some more game reps, and let's move on and look towards the future. What benefit is there of playing John Rice Plumlee right now?
So I'm going to tell you why. And I think me and you both know this team pretty well. And I think we know, listen, we've been watching this team intently in the Gus Malzahn era the last 3 years. We've been covering this team going on 2 years now, 2 seasons. We kind of know the psyche behind this staff. We know the psyche behind Gus, and kind of, I think this season more so than last, just because of how the season's going and kind of how he does things. Number one, John Rice, it's no question. He has become basically the UCF football team when it comes to being a leader. I'm not going to sit here and, say sitting him would be the worst thing in the world, because I do think the people that say to start Dylan Risk have merit. He is the true freshman. You have to see if there's anything there with him, even though, again, it is a true freshman. So guess what? With this fan base, you throw him out there, he throws 2 picks in a game. It's like, oh, well, he's not the quarterback of the future. So I don't really like that idea. I think you play John Rice because ultimately, again, I think being the leader that he is, if you sit that type of player, I don't know what kind of message that does send. Now, granted, I get you're also losing, but most of those losses weren't necessarily on John Rice. He has a great game against Oklahoma. He has a subpar game today. So I think you play him the last 4 games and you see what happens. You wish him good well because at the end of the day, I think he's made some good plays and he's made a lot of bad ones. Here's my thing. And Nick, me and you both know this. Ultimately, Timmy McClain will not be on the UCF's roster next year. I am fairly confident in that. Knowing that Gus is 3-5, Gus has never had a losing season. It's looking like that potentially is happening this season. And I get it. We're not trying to look like, listen, we've got, I'm trying, like I said this to myself in the car, and I know I'm rambling. I said this to myself in the car. Ultimately, it's always hard, right? When your team sucks. I've been a Magic fan, right? I've been a Magic fan my entire life. There's been months I'm just like counting down the days until the NBA season is over so I can have my mental state back. We have 1 more month of UCF football until September of next year. It is October 28th. We have 4 more games, folks. And if we get a bowl game, great. That's 5 more games of UCF football until the spring game. And we don't really count that anyway. We need to enjoy it regardless of the football they put on the field. Because at the end of the day, I know all of you in February are going to be like, I miss UCF football, even though we are dreading football right now. Me and you, Nick, I know you might disagree with me, so I'm not going to loop you in here. I don't think Timmy McClain's on the roster next year. If I know Gus Malzahn and I know what his headspace is going to be after this season, I am not going to have the follow-up performance next year be anywhere close to what I put up this year. I've said it for weeks. I'll say it again. Whoever the top 5 quarterbacks are in the transfer portal that all the teams are going after, UCF will be throwing whatever NIL money that they have in the bank towards that transfer quarterback. If it's a Will Howard, now granted, I don't think Will Howard's going to enter, but if a Will Howard was out there, you throw the bag at him. Now, if Gus is like, we're going to stick to the system, which I'm going to be honest, I think Gus needs to really, if you can find a dual threat, great. But going out of your way to get the dual threat,
your players, your players are your system. Your players dictate what your system is. It's not the other way around. Like, I'm so tired of hearing about the system, and we have to have a quarterback who can play within the system. Like,
yeah, but Mikey Keene just mentioned it. Like, this is the thing. I get what you're saying, Nick. I 100% agree. Like, at some point, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, this offense, Nick, can work without a dual threat quarterback. What is this notion that we need a dual threat quarterback because it's the best part of my offense? Gus has literally had to call plays basically the last 2 years without a running quarterback, and if anything, it's been more efficient. In his first year, the offense was efficient with Mikey Keene. In the second year, when John Rice went down, the offense was efficient with Mikey Keene. We are. It's almost like, again, Gus just wants the guy that can put on the burners in case a play breaks down. And at some point, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what is he like? That's great and all, but you got to have a passer for an offense like this. Now, granted, he wants to run the football. So I get it too. You want to basically run the football and make the passing secondary. I get it. But at the end of the day, this team is going to be different next year. I'm not going to say wins or losses because we have no idea. But start looking at the quarterbacks that are going to potentially enter the portal. Because whoever's out there, UCF is throwing a bag, and UCF is going to go try to get. Timmy McClain will not be on the roster. The quarterback will be whoever the transfer is, Dylan Risk, Riley Trujillo, and that will be your quarterbacks. It wouldn't shock me if it's a senior quarterback because, again, in Gus's mind, he don't want the freshman quarterbacks to dip. So he's going to say, hey, okay, we're getting a senior. Let at that point, sophomore Dylan Risk and, freshman Riley Trujillo develop, and then see what happens in year 3. But if there's any notion or anything that we've learned from this year, Nick, and you've said it, something needs to change. The notion that they need a dual threat and, it needs a guy that can run and pass. Just bring the best damn quarterback you can bring in and move the hell on and see what happens. If the best damn quarterback out there is just a pure pocket passer, let's see what happens. And I don't want to talk about too much of the next season, but I think that's where we are as a fan base. We are starting to be like, John Rice isn't it. We kind of knew that. We're trying to be confident. What's next? How is this team going to change? What is Gus going to do moving forward? But have any final thoughts? I'm so sick. The next month is going to be painful, but again, we have to appreciate it for what it is. We have to appreciate that there's football on TV that you can watch the nights. Because listen, remember, we've been doing a podcast. We were doing a podcast for basically 9 months of every week trying to find news to talk about because there's no football. It's easy when there's a game to talk about. But
listen, I get all that. I do. But I mean, I've come to 2 games this year, Sean. And I travel not a long way. I mean, I travel. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Can only make a few games a year when I can. And I've come to 2 now. And I've seen a 28-point, you imploded on yourself against Baylor. And then I had to sit through this today. A 3 touchdown loss to West Virginia at home. Okay. Like, not saying I want the season to end, or I'm not appreciative there's football on my screen, but I want to see a good product. I think UCF fans want to see a good product, and I'm just not giving it to them, Sean.
No,
they're just not giving it to them. 0-5 in the Big 12. Like, I didn't have that. Like when I forecast 6-6, I sure as hell didn't have it going this way, to where we're scrambling now in the back half of the season. Where when we looked at it, we went, man, there's some wins there on that schedule in the back half. Well, you know what? Right now, it's hard to find them. And I know we look ahead to Cincy, and we'll do that preview on Wednesday. They're still looking for their first Big 12 victory, so somebody's gonna break. Somebody is going to finally get that win. Does that really count, though? I mean, it's not like you're beating a
for my sanity,
Big 12 team. I mean, this is the same AAC Cincy. It is, and a much inferior one than the one we've seen the past 5-6 years. Yeah,
Cincy's losing 24-7 to Oklahoma State, so it's gonna most likely be.
And there you go. And then we gotta come back for the space game, and everybody's gonna get all their hopes up. And I'm not trying to crush anybody here. Go in with the attitude you're gonna win the game. That's fine, but you're gonna have that space game against Oklahoma State. You're going to be wearing your nice Cape Canaveral blues and all that, and you're going to look iced out on the field. It's going to be great. And then Ollie Gordon's going to rush for 300 yards, and it's going to dump you right.
He's got
back
116 with 9 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah,
so
there you go. He's going to run for 300 on you, and you're going to be dumped right back to reality of what you are as a football team right now. So, yeah, I've said my piece today. I've said my piece. 4 turnovers and not good enough from the quarterback today.
Yeah, I'm about done too. I got nothing. Hopefully stuff gets better before it gets worse. I don't know how much worse it can get. As a coaching staff, I mean, I don't know what you tell the players, but at some point, and we haven't even gotten, I told this to you walking out, like, I'll be very intrigued to transfers. I mean, the worst thing that you can do is have a bad first season like this, win maybe 1 to 2 Big 12 games. And then, I mean, the future of college football as you're kind of building it up, we're really going to find out how good this coaching staff is to keep the players that are in your building and not have them dip because, the record's not what you want.
That slogan hurts to look at right now.
Yeah.
It just does.
Listen, guys, we'll see what happens. We'll be bringing the Cincinnati preview to you on Thursday, per usual, going into everything about that game. Probably the closest thing you'll get to a Big 12 win this season. That and Houston, even those are, again, not easy. But we'll get into that on Thursday. Listen, we didn't think it was going to be this bad, like Nick said. But, again, bright side, you got 4 more games. You have a chance at bowl eligibility. You got to push for that. And then let's see where the chips fall. But at the end of the day, we're going to still support them. We're going to see what kind of they can do at the end of the year. And listen, you just, that's all you got to do. You can't, I get the frustrations So I understand on Twitter, but at some point it's like you can only say the same things over and over and over again. It gets tiring. So we're just going to, I hope this podcast, hopefully, Nick, this is kind of, if this keeps happening, it's going to be a lot shorter pods, and it's going to be just, very quick and easy, because I'm kind of done after today saying we can't stop the run, we turn over the ball, we beat ourselves. That's kind of where I'm at. So again, appreciate you guys all for coming and tuning into this episode, but also coming out again. We wouldn't be here without you guys. This podcast would not be where it's at without my good friend Nick Geddes. He has been a champ the last year, and it is a pleasure to have him on this show. So this pod would not be anything without Nick. See, there's my good thing to say is Nick Geddes makes this podcast better.
Wow.
I have to find some positive today, buddy. But thank you guys for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that you do. We greatly appreciate it. Please subscribe. Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot more giveaways, a lot more live events. Basketball season's coming up. Hopefully that's for a good month. A positive before we get into Big 12 play.
God,
we're going to be trying to do a
why
lot.
you got to put all this pain on me right now? Why you didn't have to bring up basketball right now.
Soccer team's number one in the country.
Let's talk about the men's soccer team. Let's give a clap.
We might have to start talking about them for, again, mental sanity.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out the men's soccer team. All right, guys. This has been Charge On, presented by Bet Online.
And by the way, real quick, shout out the Orlando Magic. For all you people watching, I'm sure you're all Orlando natives. Support them. If you want to watch a good team play basketball right now and have some excitement, go watch the Magic. They're good. I think they're
Listen,
good.
it's only a matter of time before we create a Magic pod. I mean, it's happening. It's just, we're so enthralled with UCF football season that it's all we've been focusing on.
There's our off-season content. We create a Magic pod and we move forward.
That's literally what's going to happen. Oh, jeez. All right. Again, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the support. This has been Charge On, presented by Bet Online. We will see you on Thursday.